Now, adding a profile picture isn't quite as easy as just changing a field on our database. There's 3 key parts that we need. First is interfacing with the actual device. Next is uploading it to Firebase storage and then linking it to the database. So what is Firebase storage? You'll see Firebase has another service called storage. And we want to get started with that one. We're going to get started in test mode as well. And we're going to click done. The reason we need storage is because database stores data, while storage can store files. And then within our database, we will put the link from our storage so we can link that specific image to that specific file that is in storage. So let's get started with it. The first thing we need is to add an avatar in the settings page. So similar to what we were doing before, we're going to have a circle avatar with the foreground image of network image, and then current user.user.profile pic. And that's a little bit small, so we're going to make it a little bit bigger. And there we go. So having the image there is great, but next we want to make it clickable. So we'll wrap it in a gesture detector. And whenever we tap on this, we will have a function that will do our whole implementation of changing the profile pic. Now just below it, I want to add a piece of text that says that you need to click on the image in order to change it. Okay, that makes it a little bit easier. Maybe we add a little bit of spacing here too. Add a size box of height 10 just to make it look a little bit nicer. All right. Okay, now time for the hard part. So like I said, there's 3 key parts. First, we need to get the image, then upload it to Firebase storage, and then link it to the database and change our state with it. So for retrieving the image from the device, we're going to add in a package called Image Picker. This is one of the most popular plugins for selecting images on Android and iOS library. You can also use it for taking new pictures, but we're not going to do that. So to install it, we're going to do Command-Shift-P, add a dependency, and Image Picker. Now, whenever you add a package like this, you want to read some of the descriptions and how to install and everything. So with Image Picker, our Android says there's no configuration needed, but there is some configuration needed for iOS, specifically 3 things. We need to give permissions for our app to use the camera and the microphone. You could also add this one, but if we take this request full metadata field and give it a false, we don't really need this. So we're just going to worry about these 2. Now I can add these in using Xcode, but what I like to do is just go to iOS, runner, info.plist, and paste in the key and string values for all 3 of those. And I figured I'll just bring in the photo library too, just to make it easier for if anybody's using the code. So we save it, and we should be set up to go for the image picker. But let's bring in Firebase storage at the same time, just so we have all our dependencies ready to go. So now we can read through the image picker documentation, and it gives us a good example of how to use it. So first, you need to define an image picker and then pick an image from the gallery. We can actually just copy that code directly here. Go to our settings. Whenever we click the tap, we could bring in the image picker and choose from the gallery. And make sure to import that package. Now, it described how if we set full metadata to false, we don't really need this library. Even though we imported, we don't really need the full metadata anyway, so we'll set it to false. I'm going to change this name to the image that we picked. Now, if the image that we picked is not empty, if we actually did pick an image, in case you click cancel or something like that, the image might be null. But if it's empty, we want to create another function within our state, because remember, this image is tied to our user state. So that's the only place that should be updating data. So we do ref.read. We're going to call users provider notifier, and we're going to have an update image function here. Now the type of file that needs to be stored in Firebase storage is file. So we're going to take the picked image path and import dart.io so we can convert this. So we picked an image from our gallery, we have the path to it, and we're able to turn it into a file and give it to this update image function, which we have not defined yet. Sounds like a good time to go define it. If we go into our state notifier and create a function actually similar to this, we can copy it, use it as a reference. So this one is going to be update picture. I'm going to pass in a file and call it picture. Now at the end, we're going to have a profile pic. Now we're going to have to add the actual profile pic URL here. And we're going to want to update the same thing here, profile pic with the URL. But we don't have that yet. That comes at the bottom. So something's not working with our app not running. I think we might have needed to do a Flutterfire configure after we added the storage. So we got the official Twitter, all the platforms. And let's give it another shot. Okay, this time it worked. So make sure you do Flutterfire configure after you install the packages. It said that in the documentation, but I don't know. I don't listen too well, I guess. So now we can actually go to uploading our image to Firebase storage, getting that URL, and changing our database to link to that instead of that default image that we have here. So to do that, we're going to need a reference to Firebase storage. It looks very similar to this. All right, then when we go to upload it, we need to go to the storage, get a reference to it. Similar to how we do with our database, we give it a path, but instead of collections and documents, it's just all childs because it's like a very similar to like a folder. So you have like the main folder, and below it is the child folders, or maybe even the documents, and then you get the actual file in there. So the way we're going to structure it is we're going to have a users folder. Inside the users folder, we're going to have a folder for each ID. So for each user, they're going to have their own folder for the images that they're associated with. And this gives us a type of reference. And now we can get that reference and we could put our file there. I'm going to change it to image. So this actually puts your file into that storage. But we want to wait until it's done so we could get the reference to it and actually put it into our database as well. So this gives you a task snapshot. And we can wait for this to finish. Then we have our task snapshot and we have our URL located in there. Profile picture URL is in our task snapshot, which I defined as snapshot. Then you go to the reference and then get download URL. So we went to the folder in our storage, we uploaded our image there, and we got the URL from the uploaded image. Now we could take that URL, update our Firestore collection to link to that URL instead of the default one, and update our state to have that new URL in there as well. Let's see if it works. So we go to settings, we tap the image to change. It pops up our photos. I select this one of me. It goes through the whole storage, updates, and there we go. My image is updated here. Since we have everything within the state, it should update throughout our whole application. And there you go. You see it on the home page as well. Now, if we go to Firebase, we'll go to Firestore. You'll see the user Tadas4. It has a Firebase storage.googleapis.com link to something here. This is our new profile picture. You can actually take this, copy it, and paste it into your navigation on the site, and you'll show up with this big picture. Now we can go to storage as well. Inside our storage, we'll see a folder called users. Inside our users, we'll see the actual image. And here's that link that we had to it, or the file location. There we go. So that's how you manage images in your app. First, you need to retrieve it using something like Image Picker in this case. Then you upload that to your storage, link it to your database, and we get the whole app updated because we're using state management. So now we have all the user information dealt with. We're able to update it. The next part is finally getting to tweeting.